for such a conditional use. And our recommendation, the staff recommendation, is to approve the application tonight. The application is for 716 Newport Drive. It's in this River Trace subdivision off of North Van Wert Road. And it's a 1,824 square foot single family home on an 8,276 square foot lot. She's providing 244 square feet inside the home, dedicated to the family daycare home. Our requirement is only 210 square feet, and 600 square feet in the rear yard as a play area, which is our requirement.
Questions for staff?
Good report. I don't have any questions. It was very thorough.
Thank you.
Okay. The applicant is present. If they would come forward, please. State your name and address for the record.
Teresa Boykin, 716 Newport Drive. Yes, I've been a child care provider for over 15 years. I am licensed with Bright from the Start Early Care and Learning. Bright from the Start comes out maybe 2 to 3 times a year, and they come out to make sure that I'm in compliance with them. They require me to have CPR and first aid. They require me to have fingerprinting done. They require me to have a background check. And they also require me to have 10 hours of training per year. I am in compliance with them. I have a temporary license to keep children in my home, depending also on the condition of permit that I'm asking for. Taking care of kids is a gift from God, and I've been doing it for a long time. It is also my passion. And I love what I'm doing. I don't know what I would do if I wouldn't be doing that. And it's also my livelihood. I'm also a minister of God. Me and my husband were members of World Changers Villa Rica, right here behind you guys. And my pastor is Creflo Dollar. And our church partners with other surrounding church. When they have community function, we all partner with other surrounding churches. And also, I'm asking for this conditional permit. I've never had any fatalities. I never have had any neighbors complaining the whole 15 years that I've been in business. And just like you were saying about the children, they're our next generation. And I know that your families are your first teacher. But when they're infants and toddlers, then they bring them to me. So I'm their second teacher. So I'm asking, and prior to moving here, I had no idea about Villa Rica zoning regulation. That's why when I make the location change, that's why I continue to keep the children in my home. God is my witness, I did not know anything about zoning regulation, and as soon as I found out that information, I got in contact with this young man here, Ron Johnson, and he helped me out. So it's not, I'm not trying to operate a business without doing it correctly. I am a minister. I do everything in decent and in order. So I'm just asking for a little mercy and that you all will grant me a conditional permit. And like I said, I've been in business for over 15 years. I love what I do, and I just want to help continue to teach and to nurture the next generation of children.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
David, we don't need, this is not a public input.
I think on a conditional use permit, though, we do have public hearings.
Okay. Okay, we will open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this conditional use, please do so at this time. Seeing none, it will revert back to the council for
I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use application for a family daycare home as presented.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Discussion? Not, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Moving right along. Bobby?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have tab ABL-0519, It's an alcoholic beverage license application for retail packaged malt beverages and wine sales. The applicant is SA Vaping, Inc. Licensee is Amin Giovanni. His home address is 351 Revolution Drive, Peachtree City, Georgia. The location of the business is 125 Commons Way, Land Lot 131, 6th District, Carroll County, Ward 2. The current zoning is general commercial, and current land use is a retail store. In accordance with the City of Villa Rica Alcoholic Beverage Ordinance, the Villa Rica Police Department investigated the applicant's background. As a result of the investigation, Villa Rica Police revealed no conviction or records against the applicant's good moral character and fitness for license. Applicants complied with the ordinance with regard to legal notification requirements and has successfully passed the background check conducted by the police department. Also, there are no location restrictions that would hinder the issuance of the license. Therefore, planning staff would recommend approval on the application. Also, the applicant has posted the property, and as mentioned earlier, a notice in the Times-Georgian has been posted, and we've had no comments, positive or negative, against the application.
Thank
The
you, Bob.
applicant is here.
Questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Bobby. Would the applicant please come forward? State your name and address for the record.
My name is Amin Giovanni, and my address is 125 Commons Way, Villa Rica, Georgia.
Council, questions?
His address is that? That's the address of the store?
Business, yeah. My
Yeah.
home address is 351 Revolution Drive, Peachtree
Yes.
City.
Mr. Giovanni, you are aware what the drinking age is in the state of Georgia,
Yes, sir.
and the city of Villa Rica does take its responsibility to enforce that
Yes, sir.
law very carefully. The Villa Rica Police Department in the past has conducted operations to make sure that underage sales are not taking place in the city.
Yes, sir.
You are aware of that?
Yes, sir.
And make sure that all of your staff is aware of it, so
Yes,
they
sir.
wouldn't inadvertently make a sale to someone underage?
Yes, sir. I'm on.
Because the consequences of that are very serious and could result in the loss of your license if a sale like that was made.
Yes, sir.
David gives you the legalese, and I always give you the personal part of it.
Yes.
You heard me talk about young people earlier,
Okay.
being in the recreation department for 14 years.
Okay.
We had a young person that came up through that recreation department. The coach, both parents coached in the recreation department, and that young person bought alcohol with the group she was with in Douglas County,
Okay.
and as a result of that, she lost her life.
Okay.
And so it's very personal to me as the mayor, and
Yes, sir.
so just don't do it.
Yes, sir.
Card everybody, card me, makes me feel good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so if you'd be seated, just right, anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please come forward and speak at this time. Okay, seeing none, it will revert back to the council.
I'll make a motion to approve the alcoholic beverage application for SA Vape Incorporated, 125 Commons Way, Suite 105, Villa Rica, Georgia, 30180.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, all in favor? All opposed? 3-1. Thank you, sir. Tab C, Information Technology, the part I look forward to, all these acronyms that nobody knows. Come on, Jim.
How are y'all doing tonight? Nothing too fancy this evening, so. I think the first up we have is to add extra microphones up here. Add one on this side, that side. They're going to add an additional small 4-port switch back there for the mics, so it's not going to be as expensive as replacing that one. We're able to get it done for $3,453.47.
I think we need it.
Somebody speak up.
Okay.
I see you
Okay.
wanted to speak.
Okay, this is 3,400 basically for a non-budgeted item to add 2 more microphones, of which the extent to share a microphone requires me to do maybe this. or this?
And then if you go listen to the playbacks, you don't always pick you up.
I think if we train ourselves to speak properly into the shared microphone, and then if we still feel like this is that important, then let's put it in the budget. I think it's a lot of money to spend for the 2 microphones that I don't think are necessary. And if we would do that in a whole lot of areas, we could fix some of the things we say we don't have money for. But that's all.
I think it's silly for us to sit up here and try to carry on a council meeting and passing the microphones back and forth. I think we need the equipment to do our job. So,
Any more questions for staff on this item? Okay, I would entertain a motion, and then we can discuss it further if y'all would like.
I'll make the motion to upgrade our AV system with 2 additional mics for $3,453.47.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Councilwoman McPherson has already made her wishes known, so duly noted. Anybody else? Okay, call the question. All in favor? All opposed? 2-2.
I could have tabled it and waited for Gil to be here. I don't know how he's going to vote.
And I'm going to vote against, so it failed.
Okay.
Item number 2.
Another AV upgrade. This is, you had inquired about adding a monitor back there, because I know the surfaces are a little hard to view with, and adding monitors back up here, I know y'all didn't want to go back to that, as it blocks your view out into the crowd. So this is to add a screen back here, 86-inch monitor, and it'll cost $6,425.89.
Questions for staff?
So, Jim, and so the intended purpose is for the council to see that, or for the
Correct.
public?
Y'all will see what's on these screens right up here.
That's for us to have a screen back here, because we can't, we'd switch back and forth on here to find it.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I have the civic clerk, I have this, but there's times when there's
It's hard
things
for y'all
up,
to see.
there's things up there that we're not seeing.
Correct.
We're going back and forth.
And to switch back and forth with the VLC switch that I put on y'all surfaces is less than ideal to toggle back and forth with.
Any other questions for staff? Council?
And who requested this one?
I had asked Jim to look at it and like Councilman Member McPherson said, what happens a lot of times is the audience is looking at something and we can't see what y'all are looking at on our screen. So it's just an inconvenience, but to Council Members McPherson's point earlier, it's not something we can't work around. But I had asked Jim to look at that, the cost, and thank you, Jim, because the first price he gave us was way, way, way on up there, and he did whittle that down, so.
I see more of, maybe not a need, but a reason why this would come into play. There are times there's been presentations that we're not seeing. At the same time, I'm struggling, right? Because I'm thinking we're right up on budget time. And when we get all this stuff together, we can really prioritize and say, yeah, that's something I still want to go with. So I'm conflicted.
Is that a motion?
No, that's not a motion.
So what you're saying is we could put this in the 2020 budget, huh?
I would feel more comfortable with it that way, just because that's when we're looking at everything and we're deciding what's really, really important. And yeah, that would be nice. I'm not saying I won't vote for it if that but I have a little struggle with not just that it's not budgeted. It is more of a want, but I do see we have had problems. I can see we've had problems where we can't see what the audience is seeing.
We have had
Well,
problems,
I'm more
and we've
comfortable
wondered-
with it being in the budget in this case because that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to figure all our priorities. Am I messing up your night with that? That's all. I've said enough about
Okay.
that.
I need a motion or it will die. Okay, it dies for lack of.
No, I think it's a good
That'll be
thing.
quick.
I think we,
I was about to set the hook.
Don't set the hook. It'll get off, he'll jump off. I think it's actually a good thing for us to be able to see what they're looking at, because a lot of times you can't get over to it and get back over and look at the agenda. So, yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to upgrade the AV system with a 86-inch monitor on the back wall, $6,425.89.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have discussion. I generally agree with the notion that we probably should look at this in the 2020 budget when we're looking at everything more holistically. Personally, I don't have a problem with the VLC player because I don't know if y'all have worked with it, but you can actually make it to where it floats always on top. So you can have it hovering above your civic clerk. That might help your concerns, I don't know, but I don't have an issue with it. So I don't see the need for spending $6,500.
Further discussion? Not? All in favor? All opposed? And I will vote against, even though I asked for it. See, I said it for you, then.
Well, this next one, I'm not always trying to spend money. I'm trying to save a little money here.
Okay, Jeff.
And I do like, let me just explain something. I do like the notion that if we're gonna do this, let's do it in next year's budget and see what the number is, so.
It's no problem.
Item number 3.
This is to approve the return proposal from Sync Global. Right now, we're basically operating without a contract for our data connections, phone service, our point-to-points between the buildings. By signing this return, our bill will go from $88.82.40 down to $7,366.40, saving us $1,516 a month. And we also get a few perks in the process. They will upgrade our bandwidth from 100 meg to a gig. And it'll help us all if we decide to do a build out over at the old library.
Now, I hope nobody has opposition to saving $1,000 a month. Sounds like a good deal to me.
I only have one question. They're doing it for less. Is it your skillful negotiating skills or?
I think it's more Tom, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well,
but,
we need to thank somebody. Okay. All right. That's all I had.
Well, part of this is we are going to look at possibly bringing phones in-house at a later date, but there's no way I could do that within the next 12 to 18 months. So it really doesn't make much sense for us not to sign this.
Any other questions for staff?
There's your savings right there. It would have paid for that monitor.
I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the reterm with Sync Global for 2 years at a cost of $7,366.40 a month.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
No big acronyms or anything. That was,
No.
Did you shoot
Somebody
that?
tell me what reterm is.
what?
Hey, did you shoot,
Return.
did you shoot down the mic thing too?
Okay, tab D, Sarah?
Good evening. This is our April financial update. So this is 7 months into our fiscal year. Cash looking good compared to April of last year. Last year we had total checking accounts of 9.5 million to now we have just over $11 million. The general fund is looking much better as well, up about just over $2 million from this point last year, from 5.8 million to 7.8 million. Our water sewer fund has gone up as well, 1.3 million to 1.9 million. Sanitation fund is still negative compared to last year. However, the audit should be wrapped up soon, and we'll be able to make the adjustment to the end of the 2018 fiscal year, which would probably clear out that negative one more time. So hopefully we'll start seeing no more negatives in that fund. And those 3 accounts are part of our pooled cash operating account. We operate out of the same bank account. There isn't a negative bank account. The system tracks what money is owed and what money is due to each of these funds. Those last 3 are our SPLOST accounts. We have the 08 SPLOST. We're not still receiving money for that, but we still have a balance that we need to spend on capital projects. Then we have the active 2015 Carroll SPLOST and the active 2016 Douglas SPLOST. You can see the balances there. Next is our building permits comparing April 2018 to April 2019, and these are 7 months worth so that we can compare apples to apples. So for the first 7 months of that April 2018 number, you'll see 102 building permits, and this year we already have 133 building permits. Water taps and sewer taps are in line with that as well. Commercial, we don't have that much right now. So this is our water and sewer income statement. At this time last year, we showed a loss of $130,000. Compared to now, we are actually showing a positive income of $59,000. That miscellaneous revenue you see, that does include tap fees. And I was just pointing out the difference. If you look at the total revenue lines, you see about a $700,000 difference. That's after 2 rate increases. We had the rate increase in February of 2018 and then the second one in January of 2019. And expenses is up as well. We did have the reorg of the departments in 2019. So basically we split Pete out as the utility administrator. That's what that top line is that you don't see in the 2018 budget.
Oh, the utility administrator?
Mm-hmm. Last year, he was as the public works director in the general fund. So now he is in the water sewer fund. Any questions on that? Sanitation and solid waste. Again, we had a loss last year of almost $40,000 at this point. And this year, after 7 months, we are showing a $15,000 net income. So again, if you look at the total revenue lines comparing from one year to the next, this is after 2 rate increases, and the expenses have increased slightly as well. Wanted to show lost and splost for each county. You can see lost, which is our local option sales tax, has increased over $100,000 or almost $100,000 from last year for Carroll County, and Douglas County is doing well as well. And then our splost, you can see, is looking better for both this year compared to last year. Total employees, I just think this is interesting. We had 149 as of April of last year. We have 162 now. And last but not least, our self-funded insurance. So in the past, we would pay money to our fully funded insurance carriers. Now we are putting that money into a bank account each payroll cycle. That's the employer contributions and the employees' contributions. You see that on the left. So that's how much we have contributed to that fund in this fiscal year. And the blue box shows how much we have paid out. These are actual expenses paid out. So we have a third party that pays so that my office isn't having to deal with the doctors directly. But we have a third party that pays the doctors, the hospitals, the pharmacists, or pharmacies. And you can see what we've saved so far in this fiscal year is $145,000. Total savings is $708,000. Any questions?
No questions, but I want to make some points here. Tom and I have talked in the last couple of weeks, and some things have become very apparent to me, talking to him about the nuts and bolts of everything we're doing. And just to touch on the self-funded insurance thing, it continues to save the city a lot of money, but the staff is taxed with keeping up with bills and paying things because we're kind of going against the system. So Stephanie, thank you for that, and Tom and Sarah and everybody that works on that, because I know y'all pull your hair out every month dealing with medical suppliers and hospitals and doctors and, you know, trying to get all these bills. So it is, you know, it looks good on paper to say we've saved $708,000, but if we didn't have the people in place to help us through some of the situations we've had to fight, we wouldn't be there. And so thank you for that. And a couple other things that I just want to point out that I'm particularly proud of, three more things, and then I'll be quiet, is we've turned around the water and sewer fund. If you look at that, last year we were at this time we were $130,058 in the hole. This year we're almost $60,000 in the black. So to everyone that helped us with that, with rate increases, and I know it's tough on a lot of people, but thank you. You helped make that happen, and we righted a sinking ship. And so everybody that had anything to do with that, thank you. And the same thing with the solid sanitation solid waste fund. Last year at this time, we were almost $40,000 in the hole. This year, even though we're working through some issues, we're almost $16,000 in the black. So sometimes I get kind of depressed and feel like things aren't happening, but, you know, when I look at things like this and I see that we are making progress, I'm glad to be a part of, and you folks that made it happen up here that voted on these things, and really took a tough road. It was tough to vote these increases into place. And last but certainly not least, the other thing that you know, when you've been doing this for 36 years, you know, there's a tendency to think you've probably seen everything, but talking to Tom the other day, and then I see it on this chart graphically, we can't continue to grow depending on commercial business and industrial business. When you see the impact that new houses, what are they called, infill lots, the subdivisions that are being filled up, that's where the money comes from. And that's where our tap fees come from, and our rate increase, water fees, and all those things make an impact. And if you see commercial and compare that to residential, you can see what kind of impact. And I just want this council to remember that, because as we move forward, as Tom has said many times, we have to grow out of the problems. We can't hope that they go away, and we can't tax people or rate increase people enough that are already here to make it happen. So those are three things that I wanted to point out.
Okay, I see 2 commercial building permits. Who are those?
I'd have to get back to you unless, yeah. Can we send that to you?
Yeah, because it may not even be new. I had just 2 things, and one of them had to do with the commercial. That was the only note I put, is commercial growth slow, so it might be more of a Tom question. Is the reason maybe with the economy changing, turning around how much it has so far, and then the increased housing and all, is the probably main holdback for commercial the fact that we don't have water and sewer down maybe 61, the bypass, once the bypass goes in, that area will probably grow commercially? I mean, explanation for why commercial is slow for us.
I think I could make more of an argument about why residential is coming than I can why commercial is not. Because I can ask the guys that are building residential why they're coming, but there's nobody to ask about why somebody's not coming. And if you think about the time that I've been here, the only new buildings that have taken commercial have been the Moe's Starbucks building and the Taco Bell and the new distribution building for Southwire out near Toronto. And other than that,
We have Dairy Queen.
Dairy Queen
There's
opened
Dunkin'
since I've been
before you.
here. Yeah. So you can see, I mean, there's just not much on the commercial side happening, but I don't have anybody to ask that can tell me what the answer is to why.
You do, actually.
Who is it?
The segue into that would be that I think we need to aggressively approach businesses, not wait till businesses come to us. I'm of the opinion that if we want a Cracker Barrel at Villa Rica exit, that someone needs to be pursuing Cracker Barrel and talking to the executives. Because I know other cities do it, because in the last month, I've been talking to other city managers and mayors and council, and they aggressively seek commercial businesses. So I think that we may talk more about that with the
And that may
council.
be a conversation to have with Carol tomorrow. And the only other thing I had put down, because of the self-funded insurance and us doing so well, is we're still, since we're in these budget process, we're still looking for ways to save more. And so I'm doing my own research, thanks to your help, to try to find out, shop around like you would for a car. When you pay out of your own pocket, you don't just go buy whatever's there or maybe go down the street. Maybe you go a mile or two further if you can save a lot of money. So I'm doing a little research myself to try to see, even if you're doing diagnostic. I remember years ago saving hundreds on an MRI just because I went to a different location. And so I'm trying to just check that out for myself, and I'm sure that's something we can work with our employees. But anyway, I think we can get
One more point. I said
better.
I was going to shut up, but I can't do it. I know there's at least 2 real estate agents in this room right now, and I hope I'm not leaving anybody else out. But I've talked to both of them, and they both tell me the same thing, and I've talked to other real estate agents. And that is, houses sell in Villa Rica as fast as they go on the market. Is that a true statement? So, people are coming here, people are moving, and so we need to keep moving in the right direction, because these infill lots are going to fill up, and new subdivisions are going to be, and I wish the candidates for county commissioner were in here to listen to this, is we're not going to stop growth. It's not going to happen. All we can do is hope to manage growth. And so, you know, as we move forward, just remember that. But, you know, the housing market is, you know, people are moving, and that's hurting my business, quite frankly, because there's not a real need, even though I've got some really good customers. There's not a need for me to go out with my drone and take photographs, because the houses are selling so fast, they can take them with a cell phone, really. Y'all didn't hear that. Thank you, Sarah. Any other questions or comments?
Next are some budget amendments. The first one was for Jim's 2 items, so we can scratch that. All right, the first one was for Jim. The second one, so the council approved to contribute to the Public Safety Memorial for Carroll County. It's been a little while now, but we never did a budget amendment for that, so this is just housekeeping. That was for $15,000. It's coming out of the Carroll County SPLOST. And so the revenue for SPLOST has been over budget, like we saw on my financial update. So all I'm doing is increasing the expense for that $15,000 and then increasing the revenue for $15,000. And then the third one is for something Tom's going to talk about next, but a while back the council approved to work with Douglas County on the Connors Road signal for the railroad. So we did a budget amendment for that. It was $57,000, I think. So this is the other piece of that, is to work with Norfolk Southern, or an agreement with them. We had money budgeted, just kind of a bucket of money for street improvements in the Douglas County SPLOST. So all I'm doing is taking it out of that bucket and putting it in an itemized account for this warning signal. So this is for $20,007.
And this is for the signal up the intersection of Mirror Lake and Connor Road
Right,
to tell us that there's a train on the track.
Correct.
right.
And for those of you that may not know what that is, we have been asked by the residents out there for years to put a signal up near the intersection at Mirror Lake Boulevard and Connors Road, because if there's a train blocking that, which is often the case since that's a side track, then you have to drive all the way from Connors Road down and then turn around in one of the businesses and head back up. So this signal will say train, I don't know exactly what it says, but the train on track or something, whatever. But we have worked, Councilmember McDougal has worked very hard with Ann Guider, who's our commissioner in Douglas County, that represents the city of Villarica portion, and Chairman Jones to make this happen. We've had several meetings. Tom has been there, and so this has been a project in the making for some time now. So.
Yeah, it goes back to probably Mike Williamson,
Yeah, I think so.
14. That'd be right, long time.
I would entertain a motion.
Find the motion.
Need to word the motion differently? Do we need to word the motion differently in light of the removal? So how do we need to word it then?
Yes.
It approves the ordinance amendment.
Yeah, because it's not how it's
Elisa,
written.
can you?
Yeah, I would say that the motion would be to adopt the ordinance to approve an amendment to the budget for the fiscal year 2019 for the city pursuant to Section 2.71 of the city charter, with the provision as shown on Exhibit A stricken for the audio-visual equipment.
So moved.
That was the easy way out. One.
What he said.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
You got it?
Motion and a second. Discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Tab E, City Manager.
All right, I have one item tonight, which is the agreement with Norfolk Southern that Sarah just mentioned. When this project was proposed, the way that it was envisioned was that both pieces of this would be overseen and paid for by Douglas County and then reimbursed by us. But as we got into it, Douglas county DOT decided to do the part from the railroad up to Mirror Lake Boulevard, but asked us to handle the piece that Norfolk Southern needed to do from the crossing under the railroad to the point where they could connect to what Douglas had done. And it took me a while to get that through my head because I wasn't really paying attention back when I first got here about this, and whatever happened before I got here, obviously I didn't know. So when I finally figured it out, then I had to go through the railroad, figure out what the deal was and get them to change the document and whatever. So now you have it. So this is the piece for the railroad to put a device on the crossing, bore under the railroad, come up Connors Road to a junction box that the contractor is installing. They're hoping, the contractor is hoping to be finished like maybe the last week of June with their part. So we've just got to get Norfolk to do their piece, and then we'll have it running.
Questions for Tom?
You were going to also give us an update on the Main Street sidewalk?
Well,
Yeah, I've
let's-
got all that in my update.
Okay, all right.
I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll move we authorize the mayor to execute an agreement with Norfolk Southern Railroad Company to improve the Connors Road crossing for an amount not to exceed $20,006.65.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, sir. City manager's report.
Watching the clock.
Item number one on the report tonight concerns several items with GDOT. As you know, we still have issues with temporary construction easements for the Punkintown Road, Highway 61 roundabout, and Councilmember McPherson has volunteered to try to help us with that, so we're hoping to see some progress with that soon. The I-20 bridge jacking project in Douglas County is scheduled to begin this summer, but we have still gotten no word on whether Liberty Road Bridge is in this year or next year. What I have heard tentatively is that we're going to do Post Road first, and Post and Liberty are detours for each other and can't be done at the same time, but it doesn't mean they couldn't be done in the same summer. So it could be that they could do Post first and then do Liberty this summer, but it may be that we'll see Liberty done next summer. So whenever I find out something, I'll let you know. And we're getting really close to getting a meeting with our new GDOT commissioner. Not there yet, but we're getting close. So I appreciate those of you that have helped with that. You may have heard that we had some issues with our network. For weeks now, we've had lags in trying to access files on the network. And one of the things that Jim has determined was a cause of the problem was the security cameras that we've installed recently and just the bandwidth that they require. And so we've disconnected some of these newly installed cameras until we do this upgrade that he just brought you on this return, where we go from 100 meg to a gig pipe on the fiber. So we hope to get all that stuff reinstalled when that happens. You got to hear Wesley make his presentation last week on his ideas for Pine Mountain and Stockmore Park. We continue to clean up there. We're getting better participation from Douglas County Jail. We're getting 5 to 6 inmates a day, 4 days a week, Tuesday to Friday, working longer shifts. That coincides with the schedule of our employees out there, and they're doing a great job of cleaning up. There's literally years and years of stuff out there, just stuff. And so we've hauled off, I couldn't count. Bob, do you remember how many dump truck loads he said that we?
14 or 15.
It's amazing. Another thing that we're working on is Charlie is trying to negotiate the relocation of the propane tank that sits behind us that's no longer used, where we used to have the propane fleet vehicles. He's trying to relocate that because what we're doing out at Pine Mountain right now is we have to have a company come out there and fill the train each time it needs propane. So we pay more for the trip than we do for the material, which is crazy. So we're trying to figure out a way to get that tank out there where we can load it once a year, pay next to nothing compared to what we're paying now. And then over time, saving money. The last of the large animals has been picked up. So the ox was the last one, and he's gone now. So what we have out there now are just the smaller animals, goats, pigs, chickens, etc. And those will be picked up according to the donation documents as the summer goes on. We are also we have embarked on another project which may turn out to be disastrous, so that remains to be seen, but we're trying to clean out the koi pond. It is about that thick in stuff that we won't talk about specifically that has settled on the bottom. We didn't know how many fish were in there, but there's at least 4 dozen, maybe 5 dozen koi in that pond, plus catfish, brim, carp, because people have just thrown fish in there over time. And the koi pond at Pine Mountain. So the guys are out there trying to clean this thing out without killing all the fish. So I'll let you know how that goes as they get through it. We have one particularly good hire that I wanted to note. We have obtained the services of another Class 1 water plant operator, which is really rare. And if I'm not mistaken, Pete, you are fully staffed out there for the first time since you've been here? Yes, sir. How about that?
Wow.
So that's good news. Stephanie and Sarah have been working with Fitbit, as you heard at where the luncheon or. So the storefront opens tomorrow. So our employees will be able to begin to order their Fitbit. We held our first managers training recently and worked through an assessment on our individual and team strengths and learned some really interesting things about us as a group, which I'd like to share with you all during one of our budget sessions. I think that we got some interesting feedback on who we are, who our managers are. There were about 35 of us in the training, and I think it would help you if you understood us as a team better to know maybe how to interact with us more specifically in our strengths, and to understand in a one way how, I don't know what the word is, not diverse. The strengths were, it's like we share a whole lot of strengths, so we're sort of really strong and sort of narrow at the same time as a team, which was interesting. We didn't appreciate that, so we'll talk some more about that. The police department is not in great shape in terms of vacancies. We're up to 5 with a recent hire. Will give us 4 when he gets. All right, so we're making progress, but 5 is a lot. When we get, 4, it takes us down 1 person per shift, right? So when we get to 5, and the next academy is not till July. So even the people we're bringing, if they're not certified, we still got months until we see them on the street. The Welcome Center is a continuing project. Falcon has come out and given us a preliminary site design, which we liked, and so they're going back and working on that. Councilmember McPherson has asked about the sidewalk at Hickstown. So the mayor and I have worked with an engineering firm and 2 different contractors, and I got the second proposal in between when we submitted the agenda and now, so that'll be on the next agenda That's an expensive project, but that sidewalk is a wreck. If you've been to Hickstown and looked at, I don't know why we let whoever did that do that, but anyway, it's not ADA compliant, and we've had somebody fall already. So that'll be coming back at the next council meeting. We have a repair going on at the sign at V-Plex. If you've been by there, you might have noticed that there's a panel of plywood on one side. That's going to be replaced by the end of next week. We want to have that up so that we can advertise July 3rd. That'll be coming soon. We had an audit by EPD for our MS4, which is a stormwater audit that we passed recently. We're continuing to pursue the land for a second industrial park. We've talked about that some, and that continues. Ron, who was here earlier with his presentation, is continuing to work on a grant application for rural zone, which is due in August, so you'll hear some more about that. You had an item tonight that you passed for the alcohol sales, the package sales at the vape store. There is another local business person that is also interested in selling alcohol in addition to beer and wine. That is currently not allowed by our ordinance. And to put that on the referendum, the business person has to get a petition with signatures equal to 35% of registered voters, I believe, which is an onerous task. But I wanted you to know that we've got somebody that's thinking about that. We've had several events since I spoke to you about this. We had a really successful and well-attended Easter egg hunt out at Pine Mountain. We've had the Jazz Festival and the Jeep Show out at, one at the mill, the other out at Pine Mountain. We've had much better success at the weather, if you've not noticed. Janet, would you concur that you're off to a better start? So we've had good weather in all of our events compared to last year. It seemed like it rained every time we turned around. All right, and then the last thing I want to talk to you about is water and sewer. So here we go. Water treatment plant is still in engineering. So at some point this year, I guess, we're going to be doing RFP for construction. How far down? All right, so Carter and Sloop, who you hired, is working on that. We're having easement trouble on the Edge Road water line that David is helping us with. So that project has not gotten going, but that's the Edge Road water line, which is Liberty Pool fire flow that we're trying to improve. We have an RFP out for the water line work, both out at Punkintown at 61, where we have to relocate the water line for the roundabout, and the railroad crossing between Don Rich and Olive Tree. So that RFP opens next Tuesday, so that will be coming back to you in a couple of meetings. You noticed that the utility cut on Dogwood and West Wilson has been covered, so we did that as a standalone project, so that's done. So hopefully you're not getting complaints about people driving in the gravel anymore. Bobby has worked on and off and on and off and on and off on an RFP to get a provider in here that can do utility cut patching for us. In other words, when Jimmy goes out and has a water leak and he cuts a 4x4 hole in the pavement, right now we're graveling it, we're filling it with dirt and graveling it at the top and putting a plate over it, and then it sits, forever, because we don't really have the ability to patch it ourselves. So we're trying to get somebody to do that. Bobby's close on that one. And that should eliminate some complaints, because that's a legitimate complaint, especially like on 61, where you're doing a little bit higher rate of speed. That plate is a thing to, if you're at night and you're not paying attention really, it's like, what's wrong with the road? Because you're driving over a 3/4 inch plate that's got, asphalt around it. The last thing is, I want you to know about a project that we're working on. So you've seen the 60-item list with all the stuff, and where's the money going to come from? All right, there's a smaller one of those that's just water and sewer. And the question that I'm trying to ask is, how much can we afford to do? And I told you in our meeting last week that I'm concerned now that we're going to face decisions where there's multiple ways of doing something. There's going to be the minimum way of doing it and a better way of doing it and a really long-term way of doing it that would be even better, but they're more expensive, and we're going to have to do the cheap one, even though in the long run it's going to cost us more money. So we're trying to figure that out. So what I'm working on right now is trying to determine if we can generate enough money with the rate increase that we've already done these last 2 years to generate enough cash so that we can borrow $20 million over the next 10 years for 10 years per loan. So we would do multiple loans, multiple projects, a separate loan per project with GFA, as much as 20 million, and then pay that back, each of them, in 10 years from the time we do the loan. The good and bad of that is in 15 years, let's say that we get all the projects done in 5 years and we borrow 10 million each. In 15 years, we'd be out of debt from that. The bad thing is I'm not sure 20 million is going to get it, right? Even though that's a lot of money. The other thing that we're doing in the budget and in the fund is we're generating excess cash from water and sewer taps. And like we talked about earlier in another meeting, we can't spend that money on debt because it's not dependable. And as soon as the economy turns down, that money goes to zero. But we should generate, we've got some cash already built up from last year and this year, and then we'll generate some in the coming years as the economy stays good. I'm hoping that by the end of 5 years, if the economy stays good, that we can generate another 10 million in cash, and that we can use that to do the smaller projects like the lift station maintenance and all the infiltration repair that we identify where rainwater is getting into the system, replacing service lines. I think I mentioned to y'all the other day that we've almost finished all the service line replacement on North and South Lassiter and all the roads off of those 2 roads. All that costs money. Hopefully we can do that out of that cash and not go in debt for any of that. So that's where we're headed. The next meeting, Pete, when are we meeting with Paul and Brennan? This Thursday? So we've got another meeting coming up. The wild card in all of this is the 61 corridor still. We have an idea about the water plant, the north plant, the lift stations. We're sort of nailing down parts of this, but the real wild card is how are we going to handle the 61 corridor in the most cost-effective way that will let us grow on both sides of 61 south to the city limit. So that's what we're working on. So if you hear weeping and gnashing of teeth on Thursday, that's what's going on, because those meetings are really, they're difficult to sit through because it's so uncertain right now about what we should do and how we should do it and where we should do it and what's it going to cost and what are we going to get back and what's the time frame. But that's all those guys that you've hired, Paul and Brennan and Curtis, are all in there with us, and we're all working on that together. So questions on any of that? That's
Yeah, I have
lots
one
of stuff.
update on the transportation plan.
We did a budget adjustment, right? So we have the money, and now it's on Bobby's plate, so it's behind the utility cut, patch, and RFP, but
Yeah, I'm working on 3 RFPs right now, and I've worked some on the transportation RFP. I just don't have it complete yet.
I just, want to reiterate, that transportation plan needs to be in place before we continue to grow. And, you know,
Yep.
it's just crucial to, and y'all, I'm preaching to the choir, we all have heard me say this before, but before we start, you know, developing land into subdivisions or commercial buildings or industrial parks, we need to know what our traffic flows like, because traffic is a nightmare in Villa Rica now. If you add another 10,000 people in the next 10 years, it's going to be worse than our worst example of traffic right now, and I won't call the name. But that transportation plan is crucial to the success of the city and the livability, really, of the city. Anybody else? Okay. I don't think we have any executive sessions, do we do? Okay. I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.
Am I so moved? I started trading, I so moved.